LunART's founder and artistic director, and yours today's host. So if you're not familiar with our work, LunART is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to celebrating and showcasing women's creativity in the arts. And this live series is designed to explore many facets of women in the arts by bringing outstanding guest artists and speakers and engaging in discussion and question and answer. So with that said, I encourage all of you to ask questions to our guest artists by typing them in the Facebook and YouTube chat, and we will try to answer them all. Another thing is that LunART Live events are sponsored and produced by Microtone Media. So thank you, Dave, for all your awesome work behind the scene. And today we have a very, very special guest, and I'm so excited. Our guest is Dr. Stacy Garrop. Stacy, welcome to LunART Live.
Hello, Eva. It's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to be talking with you and everybody out there. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you doing today? How's your Friday going?
It's going pretty well. I'm here in Chicago. It's a little gray out, but not too cold yet. So I'm thankful for that.
Nice. Love it. Well, Stacy, there are so many reasons I'm so excited about this conversation. I mean, we absolutely love your work. So we programmed your pieces already. In 2019, we performed My Dearest Ruth at the festival. We also wanted to have you as our artist and actually composer in residence for 2020. Unfortunately, COVID happened, but you have kindly agreed to be our 2022 composer in residence. So we're so excited and so grateful for that. And so Stacy will be joining us in Madison, Wisconsin for our 2022 festival, May 31st through June 5th, leading our Composers Hub educational program. And we'll talk about that in a short. And also, Stacy, we're performing one of your pieces in our upcoming event that is scheduled for November 4th, Resilience, and we'll be performing Bohemian Cafe. So all exciting. As you can tell, we are like your huge fans.
Thank you so much for programming these works. And I'm very much looking forward to being part of the LunART Festival later this summer and working with the composers. I love doing mentoring, so it was, when 2020 happened, it's like, well, okay, but I'm so glad that this came back around. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your amazing music. I mean, you are really such a prolific and diverse composer. And I cannot wait to dive into those questions because I'm sure audiences can't wait to hear about that. Okay, so before we dive deeper, can you tell us a little bit more about how did you start learning music and making music?
Well, I grew up in California, and back when I was young, a long time ago, we didn't actually have instruments in schools where I grew up, but we had choirs. So I started singing in choirs from basically third grade all the way through my college days. But along the way, my parents got me piano lessons starting around the age of 5. And then in high school, my friends were in marching band, so I wanted to be in marching band. But you can't march with the piano and the orchestral bells. I marched with them for 1 year and they were really heavy. So I ended up taking the saxophone. So from the saxophone, the teacher of the marching band was also teaching a music theory course. So in my junior year of high school, I took his music theory course, and one of his assignments was to go home and write a piece of music. And it all comes down to that one homework assignment. If I hadn't been in that class and gotten that assignment, I would not have discovered the joy of composing. It's seriously like when I went home that night and I wrote that first piece, it's like I'd illuminated a room in my head that I didn't know was there, and I couldn't find the light switch and I couldn't turn back off the light. And so I just kept writing piece after piece after piece. And then from there, my folks were able to get me composition lessons with a local Bay Area composer who then helped me prepare fast enough that because I was writing so much at that point, that I could actually audition for undergraduate programs in composition. And I went to University of Michigan after that, and so on and so forth.
Wow. Isn't it amazing how that one tiny event can like totally change the course of your life?
It can. I actually reached out to that teacher a couple of years ago and just said, "You have no idea how much you changed my life. Thank you." And it was just, I'd been wanting to tell him that for a while. And when I finally realized I've got to do it, I don't, he's still alive, he's still out there. I need to thank him. I was able to track him down. So I was very grateful to have that opportunity to thank him.
Wow. So that was the moment you actually knew that that would become your profession, your vocation, your passion, right? Your life.
Well, not quite. I mean, the thing that I discovered in high school was that it held my attention like nothing else in high school. And that's when I knew I was on the right track. But I just, I was playing catch up for a very long time. And I think that catch up mentality of always having been behind the ball, like there were kids at Michigan that had been composing since they were 12. And here I am, I started at 15 and a half, 16, it's like, I felt like I was always behind the game. They'd been playing in youth orchestras since forever. I'd never stepped foot in one. I was from the marching band world. So I feel like somewhere between the bachelor's and master's, I finally figured out that, yes, this is definitely what I want to do.
Wow. So
And then I
we
got my doctorate in it too. So then I confirmed it.
you did everything afterwards. Yeah. So, did you have a feeling like you need to work harder and to be better and constantly like push yourself like to your limits or?
Yeah, there was a couple of things that happened was I definitely have always had an intense drive to do something.
Mhm.
So this feeds right into that intense drive, but also was the fact that I truly never felt like I was the one that the schools thought would succeed, or because I was far behind. I could compose, that much was clear, but I didn't have all the music history, music theory, and everything else. So I think from my undergrad days on, I always approached a career as being a scrappy underdog. Like I was the one that was going to have to figure out how does everyone else do it since I'm not there yet. And I have basically kept that scrappy underdog mentality throughout my entire career. And I think that helps me stay focused and seeing, okay, I know what my next goal is. How do I plot my way from where I am right now to get to that goal? So I think it's actually served me really well. And yeah, those lessons you learn early, they're good.
Yeah, I really believe that everything that happens, even the fact that you started later, is actually defines who you are now, and you are widely successful. I mean, you're a real success story, and I really hope that whoever listens and questions themselves can hear this and be like, no, like it's never too late. If you love something and you work hard, and if you're smart and dedicated and very strategic about things, you can make it happen.
Yes,
So
yes. And I do feel strongly that I went to school with a lot of fantastic composers. I'm sure there are people who are far more talented than I am that I went to school with. And half of what creates a career is that talent. You have to have that talent, but you also have to have the business side. And I'm pretty sure a lot of those people did not have those business skills. And it could be some of them didn't have that scrappy underdog mentality where they were getting things handed to them, and maybe when they got finally out into the real world they didn't know quite where to start or what to do, or maybe something else came up and they their genius took them in a different direction, whatever it is. But I feel like I am fortunate that I was able to figure out how my mind works and what I want to do with that, and apply these things. I also do a lot of studying of other ideas. Like when I was quitting my job from Roosevelt, I studied a lot of business videos. Like how do people in the business world go about negotiating? How do they go about making connections and all this? And I learned so much just by watching a lot of business people talk about what they do. And I feel like you can apply a lot of those areas to the business side of what we do.
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Well, I definitely want to continue talking about this, but I want before that, I would like to play one of your pieces, Bohemian Cafe. So can you tell us a little bit more about this piece before we play it?
Sure. So Jim Ginsberg, who's the president of Sadie Records, asked me to write a piece a couple years ago for one of the Sadie galas that they had. And he has been to Prague a lot. I have never been to Prague, but he wanted a piece that was based on buskers in Prague, the street musicians that play throughout the city. So I got on YouTube and watched a whole bunch of videos of street buskers in Prague. And then I thought about it for a while and I came up with the story of how, imagine that you're sitting out on the streets of Prague and you're sipping your coffee and all these different types of music are wafting through the air and you're just enjoying it all.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, so let's hear Bohemian Cafe.
All right. Hey, when were you there? I was there 88 through 92. Oh. Yeah, it was.
Oh my God, Stacy, I love this piece. And I'm so excited to perform it at the Resilience event. Again, it's November 4th at Arts and Literature Laboratory. And like I remember hearing it for the first time a couple of years ago because it has been on LunART's list to perform for like, I think since 2018, since we started. But it's such a perfect depiction of Eastern European lifestyle. So,
Well, you know, if you watch enough videos on YouTube, you get, I mean, I was really grateful for that. There was a hurdy-gurdy player that I studied for a while. There was
uh-huh.
a jazz trio that just, you know, used a wooden box to create percussive. I mean, it was just so inventive what people did. And so my goal with Bohemian Cafe was to try to give everybody a moment to shine. So I think all the instruments I succeeded, except for maybe the double bass. I'm so sorry, double bass players, but it just didn't always work out. Like somebody needs to support everybody else somehow. but as a
Sorry, go ahead.
but as a player described it, this is a musical bonbon, and I think he's absolutely right. It's just a fun little piece that hopefully is something that you can put in between bigger pieces on a program or open up on start a program. So it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and for the bass player, oh, they get to be cool. So, and I like I said, when I heard it for the first time, it just reminded me of home. I'm from Belgrade, from Eastern Europe, and this is what you see
Oh,
everywhere
cool.
all the time in all the bars, and it just felt like being home, and I love food part, so that's also a plus. So, Madison people and people actually not live in Madison, we will be performing this piece so you can hear it live in person, November 4th at Arts and Literature Laboratory at 7:30 p.m. Or we are going to live stream the event, so you can buy tickets at lunarfestival.org/resilience and buy tickets for this event and hear this amazing piece once again. Great. So let's move forward. I would love to talk more about your professional career. I mean, it's absolutely amazing what you have done. So you have been a university professor for about 15, 16 years, right? Until 2016.
Yep.
And then you decided to take a path of a freelance composer, which it's rare, right? I know people need that stable paycheck and some stability. So what made you decide to transition into freelance world from your teaching full time? And kind
Well,
of, I'm sorry, and if you can tell us like what strategies you
sure.
use to make that decision? Yeah.
Yes. Part of it is that I've always wanted to be an opera composer, and it was getting to a point where academic jobs, sometimes you got more work, sometimes you have less. My career in academia was taking on a lot more classroom teaching, a lot less lesson teaching. That's just where we were at that moment with university. And I realized my time was evaporating to compose. And I was seeing other composers out there who were freelance, who were getting really good opportunities to write operas or be in residence with a symphony. And I realized I can't be mad at them if I'm not willing to take that same risk that they are taking. So I sat down with my husband and we strategized to see, could we make this work? And the two things that helped me the most was we made one schedule where if I take the train every day to go downtown and do all my teaching and then come back and do all the grading, lesson preparation, what would a week look like there? And then what would happen if I don't do that, if I go and just compose? And it became very clear why I wasn't finding enough time to really compose. And the other thing is, it does come down to money. So I was panicking very badly about, well, what am I going to do those first, I'm making some amount off of commissions, but I wasn't really having a lot at that moment because I had been so into teaching for so long. But we made an agreement, my husband and I, that I wasn't allowed to think about or panic about money for a specific amount of time. And we put a date in the calendar. And that helped me calm down. And then I just got to work. My intense drive kicked in and I was just off and running and I was hustling like crazy, calling up people saying, hey, you want to do something? Now's the time. And everything I could to get projects going. And about 6 months later, I realized I wasn't having to hustle quite as much anymore. And I feel like I'm always going to have to hustle. Like that's just part of being a freelancer. But it's not like those first 6 months that were really, really intense. And I still do keep a date in my head of, well, I need to check in with myself and make sure that I'm doing okay financially. But I just move it every year now. So I'm always about 2 years out of where I am. So I don't panic on any day-to-day level.
Wow, yeah, you're really, really organized and very strategic. So is there, so you said you created kind of the structure, you kind of compared, you did pros and cons, and you compared your potential future schedule with like your current schedule at the university. So if a composer, a young composer is kind of in the similar situation and they really want to take your route, like what would that be the first step? And what else would you recommend them to do? What are the steps they can take in order to lessen that anxiety, which will exist, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
part of our lives, but
Yeah, I mean it's hard. I don't know if I would have had the courage to do this right out of school, and I certainly didn't have the finances to do this right out of school. I know a lot of us come out of school having debt, or we have to move to a new city, whatever. We all have these things to deal with. So I think the first thing to do is make sure that you are on a plan. If you do have any debt, that you're on a plan to pay that off, and that you get any job that you can do in order to help meet the bills that you have right now and to start saving for the future. We have there's stories about like Steve Reich and Philip Glass, who I believe they both drove taxis in New York. And I know Philip Glass for sure. I'm pretty sure about Steve Reich, because that allowed them to just take a regular job that didn't really exhaust them mentally, and so they could get back home and then compose. So that is a strategy. My strategy was teaching for a while in order to make that bridge. So whatever you do to get your finances in order, pay off debts, make sure you're meeting your bills and putting a little bit forward to the future, make sure that you schedule time like you would anything else to compose or to reach out to people, to have coffee with people that you want to collaborate with. You need to actually schedule that time into your calendar, because otherwise it's easy to say, oh, well, I guess I'm done for the day. I'm just going to kick back and watch, something on TV, and that's the end of it. But if we remind ourselves constantly what it is that we want, what is our drive, what is our goal, and we just do a little bit every single day, even if it's just 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, maybe an hour or 2 hours when you have more time on a particular day, then slowly but surely you're going to get there. This is not a career that happens overnight. I have built towards this moment for um, 35 years. So it's not something that really, there's very few careers that are made overnight. So the truth is that there's not a lot of magic involved. It's just a lot of hard work and continuous work.
right, yeah, yeah, absolutely. You will hear a lot of writers and literary artists that will be like, you need to put that one sentence, 10 sentences, 200 words, however much, but you need to hit that goal, even if it's just rambling and writing nonsense.
Yeah, yeah.
But you need to train yourself to put something on a paper. And what I love everything you said, and what I think musicians and artists usually have a problem is that identity,
Mhm.
right? Like, oh, if I, drive taxi or work in Starbucks part-time, like I'm not a musician anymore. I'm not an artist. And I think there just needs to be that distinction of like, no, this is what pays my bills
Right.
and what is
Yes.
helping me. And then so I can actually have more time and stability to do what I actually love and make it happen.
Right. And I think what's important about that, the reason I bring up the taxi story is that a job like that is clearly not an academic or a music related job, but it
Mm.
freed up Glass's brain to then think about things that would be musical, and he wouldn't be exhausted by, like, I remember teaching all day and being engaged with composers who were in my studio. And after working with them on their pieces all day, it was really hard to turn around and try to work on my own music. I felt like all of their styles were running around in my head and not my own.
Yeah.
So I think there is a good logic to not going into the music profession at first if you want to save that energy, if that's the way that your brain works. There are people that can totally do the university teaching all day, get home and compose all, their own stuff. That's great, but that's not how my mind works. And I think the trick with any career is figuring out how your mind works and then building your career to optimize that.
Perfect. Yeah. Know yourself, right? That sometimes is the hardest part, but oh, that's amazing. So, I mean, as I already mentioned, you're an incredibly diverse composer. And um, this is exactly what you just said is really the reason I'm so excited you're going to be our composer in residence and that you're going to be actually helping our poll of Composers Hub participants for next year, because not only that you will be helping them hone their compositional style and voice, and but you will also be teaching them about how to grow their professional careers, what to do,
Yes.
right? So I have actually a quote. We did an interview with you on our Woman of the World blog a year ago, actually, when pandemic started. And he said, I'm very enthusiastic about helping young female composers to not only discover what they want to say musically, but also to work on their business jobs. Um, so since if there are some composers out there that would like to join this initiative in Composers Hub, LunART's Composers Hub, can you tell us a little bit more about your teaching philosophy and what are the important skills young composers need to master nowadays in order to have and to successfully actually navigate the music field?
Right. I think there's two sides to this. The first is the musical skills itself. If you don't have the goods, you don't have it. There's no career to speak of. So make sure that you've really developed your musical skills. And what I mean by that, in the way that I think about composing, is a solid understanding of musical parameters. So anything you see on a page is a musical parameter, from the notes to dynamics to articulations, etc. Orchestration is part of this. Counterpoint is part of it. The things that I think that really make a strong composer is having a strong form with each piece and how you use tension and relaxation throughout that form. So those, for me, are the top parameters of any piece of music. It's going to differ from piece to piece, but that has to be in place in order to work. The other side is the business skills. So you have to be able to run your own career. We are well past the day where a publishing house would come in and basically run someone's career for them. You can hire an agent maybe to do that sort of thing, but most of us cannot afford an agent to do that sort of thing. So I have just learned by a lot of observation of other people. When I was trying to build my own website, I wanted something that was easy to navigate for performers, so they could find something, whatever, if they are a bassoon player, how can they, is there a search function so they can find bassoon pieces? So I looked at people like Jennifer Higdon, her website, because it's very practically oriented. It's set up like a publisher. So is Stephen Paulus's website. And I set up my own website like that. So you do need to have a presence online. You also have to know how to hustle, both in person and over email, online. You have to teach yourself these skills if you don't know them. And those are some of the things that we'll cover at LunART.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So if you're interested in joining us and working with Stacy intensively, this will be like a 5 days intensive. You will have 2 workshops with Stacy in a group setting. You have a private lesson. You will have a masterclass and lectures and workshops with festival musicians. So we'll be performing and working on your piece. You will get a professional audio and 4 angles, camera, video recording, all fancy stuff. Just join us. Come hang out with us in Madison, Wisconsin. And if you're not a composer, but you know someone who can benefit from this program, please share this. We're now, applications are now open, and the deadline for submission is December 1st. So, this is amazing, Stacey. I'm so excited for you to be with us here in June. So let's hear another of your pieces. We here, Give Me Hunger. Can you tell us a little bit more about that piece?
So Give Me Hunger is a piece that Chanticleer commissioned. This was for a concert that was called He Said / She Said, although I might have gotten that backwards, who knows. I think they were thinking because I was a female composer, I would choose a text by a female writer, but I happened to find this beautiful love song or love poem by Carl Sandburg, of all people, because that's not something he's really well known for. So I just thought this was absolutely beautiful. The poem itself is called At a Window, but I felt like Give Me Hunger had a lot more energy to it. And the idea of the poem is that I always picture Carl Sandburg just on the ground, shaking his fist up at the sky, saying, "Give me everything that's bad in life, oh you gods that control everything, but just leave me a little hope at the end of the day. So when I go to the window and I look out, I know that there's something good waiting for me." And that's hopefully what I set well in this piece.
Oh, love it. Yeah, let's hear it.
Give me hunger, 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 oh you gods, give me hunger, give me hunger, oh you gods, give me hunger, give me hunger,
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy, for sharing this work with us. And for all of you that want to see like the full list of pieces, there are many vocal pieces, orchestral, chamber pieces, solo for solo instruments. Please visit Stacy's website. It's stacygarrop.com.
It's just Garrop.com,
Oh,
actually.
it's just Garrop.com. Okay, I was about to say you will have a link in a Facebook and YouTube chat. So just go there and check out. Go to YouTube. There's so many performances of your work. It's just amazing. So we have a couple of questions actually from our audience members. So first one is, as a beginner film and media composer, how can people know about my music?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think one of the things to do, like, first of all, you need to get your music on the web. We all need to have websites that show what we do. Otherwise, people won't be able to find us or contact us. There are groups that you can join, depending on where you live. Like I know in Chicago, there are some local film groups that will, like there's small indie groups that are trying to make music or make films. You should go check out what's in your community and find some local groups to join. Try universities to see, are there any film makers who are looking for composers. You might have to work for not very much at first, but I think it will help to build, if you know the people who are making the films and they know who you are and you start working together earlier in life, you can then develop and grow together. You're forming relationships that will hopefully last for life. And last but not least, there is Facebook. There are some film groups on Facebook, and I joined one a couple of years ago, and every now and then I see someone saying, hey, I'm looking for a composer for this project. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can network, both in person and online. So I would check those out.
Great, thank you. I hope this was helpful. Next question, as a composer of opera, what do you see happening with opera today? And do you think we are in a new renaissance for opera?
Well, it's interesting. I think we were actually going through a golden era of opera right before the pandemic, and we didn't quite realize it, but there was so much new opera happening for the first time really in decades, and on a substantial level. That said, I think what happened during the pandemic, and especially with George Floyd's murder, has greatly impacted the opera world. It's impacted all of the worlds, but opera seems to have really taken it to heart. I've been on Opera America's conferences and new works forums throughout the pandemic, and the amount of commissioning and projects I'm seeing that are diverse, that are allowing voices to come to the forefront that we've never heard before in the opera world is astounding. And it gives me great hope that what we're seeing is not just a movement that's going to last a minute, but hopefully it's going to start to last for years and years and really impact the direction of opera. So we're all going to have to wait and see, but I'm very hopeful.
Nice, love it. Yeah, hopefully. So there is another question. So what other non-music jobs have you done, Stacy?
Well, honestly, since school, I've really taken on mostly music jobs. Probably the least music one that I took on while in school was actually at Michigan, University of Michigan. I was the piano key room taker, so people would check out the piano keys. Oh, I also worked in the cafeteria there. That was interesting. But mostly, some of the other jobs I did in college were I was the copyist for different professors who had they had orchestra pieces and they needed parts made. So I did that kind of work. That way it helped me understand a little bit more about their composing. But to really talk about jobs that that didn't have anything to do with music, I was a receptionist for a law firm at some point. I was a Kelly temporary worker back in the day. So, you know, if you ever know that, they plug you into different businesses that need like a secretary for a day or whatever. So I've done that work. And that was really, actually, that was very educational too, to see how the business world works.
Right. Yeah. That's great. I think everyone should experience like work in a totally different field, because it can really open your mind, and you can learn a lot, even though if it's not directly related, but you can always make a parallel.
Yeah. And actually the one I forgot that I did that taught me the most was I was a waitress for a summer, and seeing how people treat a waitress, or, you know, it really was informative. I'm always so careful to tip generously to my waiters and waitresses throughout the rest of my life because I know what they have to put up with. So I think at the very least, if everybody could just be in the service industry for a little while, I think maybe we'll have a little bit more compassion as we go forward.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. That's a great advice. So, okay, I have a question. So, you've been working in like a really male-dominated academic world, and then you became one of the most in-demand composers, and your music is being commissioned and performed by like ensembles like Minnesota Orchestra, Detroit Symphony, Chicago Symphony. So, what is your experience working in a male-dominated field? And hopefully, we can see the switch now in the dynamics in this world. And what advice would you give young women identifying composers that are trying to make it nowadays?
Well, I think one of the things I was thinking about this question before our session today, and the phrase "keep the beat of your own drum" comes to mind, because there's going to be people that tell you, well, you're female, you should do this, or your music should sound like that. I got that early in my career, and I was shocked to discover that there are female composers who are still being told nowadays that their music sounds to this or to that, or not enough this or not enough that. So I think you do need to just hold steady to your inner voice, find that voice, and don't let people convince you otherwise that it should be something else. I do think sometimes it's actually helpful to think like a man. And what I mean by that is I've always been shy. I've talked about this a lot in different podcasts and things. It's early in my career, it was very difficult for me to go up and introduce myself to somebody because I would feel like, oh, what value do I have? I'm female, whatever. And I finally had to stop and say, well, if I were a guy, what would that guy do? Would they feel like this, or would they just march up and handshake, or do the elbow bump at this point? And so that actually did help a little bit more to feel like, well, I'm just going to act like a composer. I'm not going to be male or female. I'm just going to be a composer. And to see it as a role that I'm putting on was also very helpful. So I do feel like, the composer side is a little different from my personal side, and as it should be, because we all have careers and we are other people besides our careers too. But I think all those and sometimes I even dress differently as a female composer versus my personal life. So I'll dress a little bit more to the hilt when I'm in my composer mode, and I'll be in my quiet, my mode where I'm just wearing whatever is comfortable at home.
World.
But I think all of those things help build a persona. So especially if you're shy or you're feeling at all insecure about who you are trying to be, think of it as a persona. Like, I'm going to dress a little differently, I'm going to think a little differently, and see where that takes you. If it's not comfortable, then that's okay. It's not for you. I remember when I was in school, I watched some composers that had what I would call the golden touch, and they had the ability to go up and talk to anybody about their music. And I tried doing that myself, and I felt absolutely sick to my stomach, and I can't do that. That's not my personality. So if it takes me longer to build a career, that's absolutely fine, but I have to do what's, the beat of my own drum. I have to follow that, not only in my language, but also in how I conduct business. So I did find that, especially doing a little bit of dressing more in a persona, that seems to help me. So that's the path I've taken, and hopefully some of that will help you too.
Yeah, that's an amazing advice, and it really resonates with me. That's how I am. You would like put a hat on, like, oh, I'm a performer. Oh, I don't know, business leader right now, or I'm a speaker. And if you just dress, some people I know, there are many studies that show that if you're doing an interview, even if it's just on a phone, like, dress up as you're doing an interview, stand up, walk, gesticulate, even though no one can hear you, but there's a change in your voice by doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree with you. Stacy, this has been absolutely amazing, and I can really talk to you forever. And I'm actually excited because I will get to hang out with you for like a week.
Yes.
June. So again, what is first of all, what is the best way for people to connect with you if they want to commission you or check out your works? And
probably through my website. I have a pretty substantially built website at this point. You can find all my music there by category, and there's a contact me page. You can also reach out through Facebook, but probably through email from my website is a little bit easier.
That's great. And yeah, absolutely. It's really easy to reach out to her. I never met Stacy before, but I found her website. I found her work first and then check out her website, which is very easy to navigate, as you said. Everything is right there. And then I just contacted you, and that's how our collaboration started. So Stacy is very approachable. Make sure to reach out to her and get the project going. Um, Stacy, thank you once again. This was absolutely wonderful, and we are very excited to welcome you here. Um, Composers, sign up for Composers Hub 2022. Go to our website at lunartfestival.org/Composers Hub 2022 and apply today. The deadline is December 1st. So this is it for today.
Thank you so much, Eva. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you, and I am so excited to get to Wisconsin and spend a week with you and making music and working with young composers. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you. So I really hope you enjoyed our talk today and got inspired. There were so many actionable tips here, and there's so much that resonated with me personally, and I'm sure it did with you. So if you enjoyed it, please make sure to go and like our social media platforms, our Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I know Stacy has a Facebook, YouTube, so make sure you follow her and her work. And if you want more of this, consider donating to LunART. Go to our website at lunartfest.org/donate. Again, I'm plugging in our upcoming festival event where we will be performing Stacy's work. So it's taking place November 4th at Arts and Literature Laboratory. So make sure to subscribe to our newsletters and stay informed about all the awesomeness that is coming your way from LunART. Yeah, thank you once again, Stacy. Thank you everyone for your awesome questions, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.